Welcome. This is the third part in the series about Christmas and seeing the events of Christmas through the eyes of Joseph and Mary. We are going to work with the hamstrings and our hips today. So if you have blocks, bring them along. A strap or a scarf or something, you're going to lift the leg to the front might be useful. You can also not have it. That's completely up to you. We'll start seated, or if you feel like it, you're welcome to stand. Get the sitting bones firmly down in the mat. Tall spine, and then you can close your eyes as you listen. And if you're watching this video during a busy Christmas time, maybe lots of social engagements, take the time to be quiet, listen. Inhale and exhale. And if you have been busy serving people around you, open your hearts towards the idea that you're going to let God serve you, in a sense, during this practice. It's your time to receive. Feel your breath move slowly in and out through your nose if possible. Today I'll share with you the events of the Wisemen. In the Message version of the Bible, they're called scholars. So in short, 3 very wise men apparently were looking at the stars. Probably they were teaching others. They were maybe gurus at their time in a foreign Eastern country, not Jewish people. But then they saw this star one evening. And they kind of deducted that this was the star of a king being born somewhere. And not just a king, like a random king, but the king, someone very, very important enough to pack their goods and travel towards then what turned out to be Jerusalem. Apparently the star kind of showed itself and then it disappeared again, and they went to Jerusalem to ask for the king among the kings. The king at that time, Herod, got jealous, but he did not let the wise men know. Of course, it was not his son that was born. And then they go back to the Old Testament. And they figure out, Messiah, that king that was supposed to be born, that the Jewish people were waiting for, was supposed to be born in Bethlehem. So off the wise men go again. And then the star appears again and leads the wise men to the place where Jesus, Mary, and Joseph was. We don't know it was in the stable or wherever it was, but in Bethlehem. And they greet the baby with presents, expensive, very valuable presents, bowing down before this child. These were the events. Start moving a little bit as you sit. And the reason why we know what happened must be because as they met Joseph and Mary, they must have told their story, just as the shepherds told their story to Mary and Joseph. So this must be written down in the Bible because Mary, most likely Mary, told the disciples, told the author of this book, Matthew, about the events. You can stretch out your legs, you can move your wrists, whatever you feel like doing. If you haven't released your legs yet, go ahead and do that. And find tabletop. Just a few cat-cows. Three of those thread the needles movement dynamics. So you can take your left arm up, move it up towards the sky, and then the nails underneath here, shoulder down. 2 more times. Inhale as you bring your arm up. And exhale down. Still tabletop position, knees stacked over, or hips stacked over knee. And when you've done that 3 times, move to the other side, just opening up the chest and do a little bit of spinal rotation here. And when you have done that 3 times, you might find child's pose. Move your hip back towards your heels. You don't have to move a lot, just take 1 big breath. And then bring your hands to the front. Spread out the fingers, tuck the toes under, and move into your downward facing dog. Our first stretch of the hamstrings. So keep moving your legs, pedaling your feet. In another Christmas series I did, I shared a lot about the Wisemen and how they were searching for this star. And I absolutely love the story. It's one of my favorite Christmas story with these wise men because they're just, to me, a symbol of me searching for something. Having seen a glimpse of something very, very valuable and trying to pursue it, trying to find the truth, trying to find love, trying to search. The wise men were searching and they actually found what they were searching for. Now step your feet to the top of the mat. Soften your knees and fold forward. You might want to shake your wrists. I almost feel like we should call this star salutations. Now that is the story of the star and the wise man, but it is sun salutations. So, and it's not worship of the sun. Of course not. It's just a matter of movement and a name. Inhale, reach your arms up overhead. If you're not used to this, don't follow the breath. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, lift up halfway. And then a long exhale, you just breathe if you feel like it. Go for your plank to your low plank on your knees or your toes. Move your hip up slightly, or your shoulders up slightly. Continue that movement. Take the knees down. Bring yourself into downward facing dog. You might exhale as you do that. Doing that 2 more times. Walk to the front and you might fold forward as you exhale. Navel in. Inhale, high mountain, arms up. Exhaling, folding forward. Inhaling, half lift. Exhaling, plank. To low plank. Again, you choose knees or toes. Elbows in by the ribs though. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Take 1 breath in down dog. Adjust your stance if you need to. Soften the knees. Next, inhale to the front. Folding forward, exhale. Inhale, high mountain. Swing the arms up overhead. Just to exhale and fold forward again. Half lift, inhale. Plank to low plank. You're welcome to jump back if you feel like it. Cobra up dog, inhale. Shoulders back and away from your ears. Downward facing dog, exhale. From down dog, bring your right leg up and back. And then move the right foot to the top of the mat. And that is the first time you might want to use your blocks. I would use it on the second height. I think it's more stability to be found there. But if you want to go for the highest, go ahead. I'm going to move myself back to some degree, extend both legs. So inhale, I am bending over the front leg. Exhale, move back, stretching both legs. 2 more times. Inhale. And exhale, move back. Inhale. Bring your hip down. And exhale. And then bend the front leg. This we're going to do on the opposite side. You know what you're going to do. We're going to take the blocks here, or just your hands, move into a wide-legged forward fold, toes pointing in. Just fold forward. If you don't need the blocks here, just use them for under your hands anyway. If you feel a little bit unsure what's going to happen now, just switch your legs around. If you're like, yeah, I can do this, turn on the mat. And then repeat what we just did. Stack knee over ankle, inhale. Move back, hands on the blocks, exhale. Wide pyramid. Keep moving forward and back, opening up everything at the back. Next time your knee is bended, stacked over and knee stacked over ankle. Stop your movement, go through that wide forward fold. Maybe move the feet just a tad further out, fold down. No need for the arms or the hands to reach down. It depends on the flexibility of your legs. Lift up again, and then you can kind of bring your blocks with you to the top end of your mat, where you most likely will be able to see the screen the best. Move the blocks aside, fold forward. And then stretch your legs to some degree. Hands on the block if that feels better. But try to extend your legs to some degree so you feel a stretch going maybe all the way from the heel up to your knee, up to your hip. But not too much. I don't want you to shake or anything. Then bring your hip back, chair pose. So sit down pretty low, tuck the tailbone slightly in. And then mountain pose, hands down by your side, taking a few breaths. So picturing those wise men visiting Mary and Joseph. And Mary and Joseph, first of all, just listening to the story. What would they have felt or thought as they listened to the wise men and how they saw this star? Open up your eyes again. Bring your right hand on your right knee. And maybe draw your knee up higher than hip width or hip height. Feel the left glute activate. And then bring the heel towards the buttocks. Really push it in, not with your hand if you can balance without. And then keep the heel pushed towards the glute. As you bring the leg back, you can take your airplane arms and go for this kind of broken triangle or warrior 3 or airplane. Feel the hamstring really turn on. That's what's pull the heel towards the buttock. And then release. Lowering down that right foot you had towards the buttock. High lunge. Take a deep breath here. Bring your hands into prayer pose. This is great for digestion to do twists, just because we get a little bit of massage into the abdomen here. So going for the twist, hovering or elbow on the outside of the knee. Breathe. Release, bring both hands down, step back into your plank. You can use your elbows, you can use your knees. Make sure the finger pads reaches down in the mat. One more breath. And then you're down dog. Get those heels extra heavy without forcing them down. Soften your elbows. Make sure the shoulders are not squeezed towards your ears. Arms and ears somewhat aligned. So you have this beautiful long spine and neck. Moving to the top of the mat again, folding forward and moving up into mountain pose, palms together on top of your head like a candle, so a little bit soft in your elbows, and then lean back. Make sure you have a little bit of distance in between your feet so you feel stable. Soften those knees. We tend to hyperextend them. Feel how your throat is turning on here, holding your head. Looking up like the Wisemen would have looked up, maybe with something like, so they could see the stars. And stand up straight again. Hands down in prayer pose or by your side. Seeing things in the sky and experiencing supernatural things was not foreign to Mary and Joseph, because they knew the stories of the Old Testament, where the prophets and lots of the stories in the Old Testament incorporate things that are supernatural, events that could not happen if we just look scientifically at them, right? So I don't think they would you probably just wouldn't believe the scholars for this star. But it would speak to them about something different is going to happen, something great is going to happen. They would believe the wise men, most likely. Lift your left leg up, left hand on the knee, and lift the knee as high as you can. Stand tall. And then pull the heel towards the buttocks. You feel again the hamstring, the back of the thigh there turn on. If possible, keep your balance, keep that heel pulled in. So if your right heel is there, pull it towards the right buttocks, not the left. We don't want to cross. And then go for any variation of Warrior 3 that makes sense here. Keep pushing the heel in. release. High lunge. Show your left foot comes back towards the back end of the mat. Bending front knee. If you don't feel like you're warm enough, just widen the distance here in between your feet. And then most likely you'll get pretty warm. Twisting, elbow on the outside of the knee, or just hovering here if you feel like that is better. Lift the top shoulder off towards the sky so you don't squeeze the shoulder blades together in front of your chest. One more breath. And then release. Bring both hands down. Step the front foot to the back. Coming down on your elbows. And if you feel like you need to fold the mat for the sake of the elbows, that's always a great option. Planking away. If you want a little bit more core challenge, you can lift your hip up just a little bit. Coming back to what I call neutral alignment with the shoulders, and then lower down slightly. And then you can move your hip up and down. And then get your knees down. Child's pose. This time more distance in between your knees. Arms down by the side, forehead maybe on the mat. How would Joseph and Mary have seen those wise men all of a sudden entering into their most likely very humble home or wherever it was they were visiting? Or staying at that moment. Those wise men or scholars were most likely very rich, clever, important people. And then they enter into this humble home. It's almost like any great fairy tale, right? And they are given these very precious gifts. And what I like about these wise men is they were not too wise. They were not so confident in their own cleverness that they did not have the humility to bow down. They kneeled down and gave these presents. So they believed. I wish I could sometimes also let go of my pride. Bring your hands to the top of the mat again, going into one of our great stretches before we get into the hip opener even more. Bring your feet to the top end of the mat again, rising up, mountain pose. This is where you might want to use your strap. We are gonna, if you don't have a strap, use our peace fingers and hold around the big toe. So the strap, if you have it, would be wrapped around the whole sole of the foot, and you can kind of lift up with that. There, I think you might have tried it. But let's see. If you take your right thumb and grab the right big toe, and then to some degree extend the leg out. It might just be halfway, it might be all the way. You can always bring your other arm out to the side. Focus your gaze maybe on the floor to better find balance. Just a few breaths here. Really stretching all of the back of the leg. And then slowly release. You might step it back. Just a very short sequence, warrior two, bending the front leg. And again, long distance, short distance in between your feet, depending on what you want to achieve. Open up the inside of the thigh this time. So you might want to bend the front knee, maybe move it a little bit over the top or the front ankle. One more breath. If you don't have a lot of energy today, just step to the top of the mat in mountain pose and stay put there. Or if you feel like it, going for a vinyasa, which means plank and all of that. Back heel off, step back, untoes your knees, lower down, exhale. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Exhale, down dog. Come to the top of the mat one more time. Fold forward. And then mountain pose. Are you ready? Other leg, peace fingers, left hand. Take it slow. And you might have a chair nearby that you want to bring your hand or your just one finger on. I have a wall. All right, to the degree that you can extend the leg out, do that. And make sure that shoulder's not squeezed out so you're kind of hinged forward. I'd rather have you bend the front leg than kind of leaning in too much. And there's really nothing you have to achieve, have to do here. I am super shaking and finding this very, very hard. You cannot see it, but I am. One more breath. And if you're ready to slowly release, bring the left leg back, turn it towards the short end of the mat. Warrior two. So as before, you might want to bring the front knee a little bit over the ankle to get this stretch a little bit deeper. Activate the back of the shoulders. We squeeze the arm forward when you hold onto the toes. Just activate the back a little bit more. Bring the arms or the palms up towards the crown of the head. Turn the front foot, so you know you might not be able to see the screen. Toes pointing in, navel, pelvic floor in. And then lean towards the top of the mat. Most likely your right side. If it's too much, support your hand here down on the thigh. Lifting up, using the core quite a bit, going for the other side. Excellent. Coming up, forward fold. And if you feel like going wider, we have really used our legs quite a lot today. Go ahead. You might feel warm and ready to kind of do the peak pose of today. The seated split, which is where we're going to use the blocks. Okay, lifting up halfway. So, depending on the condition of your legs and your hamstrings and everything, maybe this posture, what is called lizard pose, with both blocks here on the inside of the thigh, front knee, is where you get the best stretch. So don't force yourself into what I'm going to show you now. Now, I am not good at doing those splits, that's why it's nice to practice. But if you want more, you're going to bring the back knee a little bit further back and the front foot further to the front. So I'm kind of gliding my way. And you can see I put my blocks on the top height. If you have those cheap blocks that are really wobbly, I would maybe not go for the highest height here. But the idea is that if you're super flexible, you can get your hip all the way down, and most likely some of you are able to do that, so go ahead. I am pretty challenged here, so I am gonna stay here and breathe, trying to relax everything. This is not a posture which is very relaxing or even comfortable, but breathe. So we are opening up everything here, as I believe Mary and Joseph was opening up their perspective to what it meant to be parents to this Jesus, this King, not only of the Jewish people, but of the world. Getting out of it can be even the most difficult part. Get out of the posture. I love my down dog for anything where I need to release. You can even do a vinyasa if you feel like that. If you're ready for the other side, we're just gonna do that. So your left leg to the front again. Maybe just go with your knee down, front ankle and knees stacked, and do a lizard pose, or go for the more full extent. How flexible you are can also be a question of how much you work out. So I feel my legs a little bit from yesterday's workout. So I can feel the soreness, which is also what hinders me in just going a little bit deeper than I feel I can do now. So we're having our hips closed. I'm not bringing the back knee out to the side to any extent. I'm just bringing it back. So the feet are hip width distance if you kind of take that on the short end of the mat. Breathe. Bring the shoulders back. If you tend to lift them up, move them forward, bring them back. And I mean, if you love it, stay there just a little bit longer. You're so welcome. But if you feel, oh, I'm good, I am super good, come and take a seat, simple seated, whatever it looks like for you. We have been moving our legs quite a lot, so just getting a little bit of attention to our shoulders before resting. So the shoulder circles, and then I'm gonna bring my hands behind me, grasp the hands, or just reach down on the floor. Squeeze the shoulder blade together, lift the chest a little bit forward, maybe your head up, maybe not. Release. Coming further down on the mat. And now it's really up to you. I will guide you into a little bit of rest, but if you feel like you want to rest more, just bring your screen, whatever your device you're looking at, closer by so you can pause and stay a little bit longer if that's what you want. But don't pause yet though. I'm windshield wipering my legs and maybe staying with your legs out to one side just for a moment. Spinal rotation, beautiful. beside the story of these scholars or the wise men being a cool story in itself, I'm wondering why God chose this to be a part of the Christmas events. Why is this important that it is written down and shared with us in our time and age? Why do you think? You can reflect on that as you move your legs to the other side for this small spinal rotation. Why is the story of the wise men important to us, also seen through the eyes of Mary and Joseph? Come back. And now it's time for resting. So get the feet slightly apart, hands down on the floor. If you want to use your blocks for pillows, you can even bring it underneath your shoulders for a little bit of a chest opener. Do that. And I just want to share the last thing before I stop talking. So seen through the eyes of Mary and Joseph. Again, like when the shepherds kind of appeared, I think Mary and Joseph one more time were super surprised by these foreigners appearing. Most likely they don't even speak the same language. They would have a translator. I think they will be very, very surprised, honored. And once again, I believe it was a piece of the puzzle that told Mary and Joseph what this son of theirs was going to do. He was not only the king of shepherds and people like you and me, but also king of the famous, of the clever people. He was a king to be worshipped in every nation, no matter education, color, no matter all the boundaries that we might put in this time and age. This baby is more than we can ever imagine. And then take a moment as I will leave you in silence to just reflect and meditate on this greatness. The God that put the stars there in heaven sent his son, a part of himself, to this mundane world. If you're ready to finish with me, you can move your fingers and your toes and ankles and everything. Stretch or hug your knees. Maybe sigh out. And slowly take a seat if you're ready. I would love to finish with a prayer. So, as always, you're welcome to listen or pray along, whatever you feel comfortable with. God, I want to thank you for the events of Christmas one more time. Thank you for the story of the wise men that was searching in odd places in the skies for some of us, but ended up finding Jesus. God, may we as the wise men and as the shepherds bow down and offer what we have. Because we know that what you give is so much more valuable. Through your birth, death and resurrection, you offer a life that conquers death, sickness, pain. Help me to walk boldly in that faith. Thank you, God. Amen.